Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. There are some games that are just brutal to watch. There are some games that are just abominations on the eyelids, where nothing good happens and where you feel disgusted for watching it and wasting over 3 hours of your life. There are some games where neither team deserves to win, or does win for that matter, and where you get higher quality football by going to the park and watching some kids just play pickup with each other. If there was ever a game where this description fit, it was what transpired on Sunday between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions. It took Lions quarterback Jared Goff nearly 70 minutes to finally throw for over 100 yards. There were a disgusting 16 punts. The starting kicker on the Lions was a player who kicked a grand total of 0 field goals over his final 2 years of college. Steelers starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger was a last-minute scratch due to COVID protocols. The weather didn't help things either, as it was raining all day, with the field conditions being pretty sloppy, as is typical Heinz Field. So it only seems fitting that a game as ugly and as porous as this one ended with one of the stupidest play calls you're ever going to see. For those who aren't watching this in the immediate aftermath of the game, let me set the scene for you and paint a picture of what we're working with here. It's November 14th, 2021, and the winless Detroit Lions are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are right in the thick of things for a playoff spot in the division crown in an absolutely wild AFC, where who is good and who is bad alternates on a weekly basis. After the Steelers score on the opening drive of the game to take an early 7-0 lead, they're unable to get anything going offensively the rest of the way, picking up 3 field goals on their next 10 drives in regulation. Meanwhile, the Lions are having tons of success running the football, with the team averaging just under 6 yards per carry. However, the passing game can't get anything going, as Goff finished regulation with 54 yards passing. For some perspective on how bad that is, that same day, in the game between the Bills and the Jets, Josh Allen threw this pass to Stephon Diggs. He had more passing yards on that one play than Goff had in 60 minutes of football. With the score tied at 16 apiece, we were heading into overtime. After the Lions get the ball and do absolutely nothing with it, the Steelers look like they're going to be in a pretty good position to win it, when Deontay Johnson picks up 39 yards and gets into Detroit territory, only to fumble it and have it get recovered by the Lions. We just can't have any nice things in this game. And when it seemed like the Lions were about to get into field goal range and walk away with their first win of the season, TJ Hockenson gets called for holding, pushing Detroit back a bit. It led to a 48-yard field goal by Ryan Santoso, a man who had never kicked from that distance in the NFL, and a man who hadn't kicked a field goal that far since September 26, 2015, when he was kicking for Minnesota in a game against Ohio. That was so long ago that the Rams were still in St. Louis. Naturally, he misses the kick badly, because of course he was going to. And after the two teams trade punts again, with 1:37 left, Pittsburgh has one more chance to get out of here with a win. And it seems like Pittsburgh is able to move down the field and put themselves in a position to possibly do this. They're faced with a third down, and Rudolph connects with the rookie tight end Pat Freiermuth for an 8-yard gain and a first down. Then they're faced with another third down situation, and Rudolph is able to hit the rookie running back Najee Harris for a gain of 7 and a first down. 2 plays later, Rudolph hits Deontay Johnson, and Johnson has some great speed and awareness to get the first down and get out of bounds, since the Steelers are all out of timeouts. Pittsburgh has 15 seconds left. They might have time for one play down the middle of the field if it develops quickly and they're able to get back to the line, but that's risky. They have time for 1 or 2 plays to the sideline. The one thing that you can't do here is call a play that's going to wind up inbounds and pick up no yardage. That is the doomsday scenario. You need to do whatever you can here to either get yards or stop that clock. With all that in mind, you're never going to believe what the Steelers call.
Right now it's a 58-yard try. Catch made. Can he get out of bounds? Ball's out! He caught it and lost it!
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that looked bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that looked awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. After this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. He's an incredible head coach, and I've got nothing but praise for him for the most part. The Steelers have never had a losing record under his watch, and the fact that the Steelers were in playoff contention during the 2019 season when Duck Hodges had to start 6 games under center shows how good he can be. However, under his watch, the Steelers have had a tendency of playing down to their opponent and saving their absolute sloppiest football for the worst teams. And man, was that the case here, and no play exemplified that more than the one in question, which has to be the worst pass play in overtime I've ever seen. So with that being said, let's take a look at why calling a 1-yard pass in the field of play when you have 15 seconds left and no timeouts is a really bad idea. And before I go any further, on this series, as I've said before, I stay away from plays that are the result of player error. I stay away from plays where the quarterback made a bad decision, or the runner did something he was not supposed to do, or where the player in question dropped the pass. If that was the case here, I'm not talking about this play. And obviously, I'm not blaming the coaching staff for Freiermuth being unable to hold onto the football, because that would be ridiculous and would completely undermine the purpose of the series. I'm blaming the coaching staff, whether it was Tomlin or offensive coordinator Matt Canada, for calling a play so stupid where they were in this position to begin with. Because there was no good reason, and I truly mean it, none whatsoever, for this to have been the play call. When you break down this play, it makes no logical sense whatsoever. First, let's look at this from a risk and reward standpoint. Let's say the best case scenario happens on this play, and that is Rudolph hits Freiermuth and Freiermuth gets out of bounds. What's the reward? A whole 1 yard. That's it. Whoop-de-doo. The Steelers move from the 39-yard line to the 38-yard line, and on a rainy day, Chris Boswell is going from a 56-yard field goal to a 55-yard field goal. Obviously, every yard with kickers matters. If this was going to take it from a 56-yarder to a 51-yarder, that completely changes things. But 1 yard? 1 measly yard? Boswell has only hit 2 field goals in his career from 55-plus yards. They both came in ideal conditions, with one being a 56-yard field goal this season at Heinz Field that set the record for the longest kick made in the venue. That kick was on a perfectly sunny day with minimal wind. The other one was a 59-yard field goal at AT&T Stadium last year against the Dallas Cowboys, in a game where the weather never plays a factor. In other words, a 55-yard kick and a 56-yard kick on a beaten-up field at Heinz Field are for all intents and purposes the same thing. Boswell is a great kicker, but considering the conditions and considering his history, the odds he hit from 55 and the odds that he hit from 56 are practically identical. So even in the best case scenario on this play, nothing changes. You call the play where the net gain was 0. If you're calling a play and the best case scenario is that you're exactly where you started, then you need to reevaluate that call. As for the risk, well, I think it's pretty obvious, as we saw with what happened on this play. I'm not even talking about the fumble. If you're going to call a passing play to the sideline with no timeouts where the clock is an issue, make sure one of two things can happen. Make sure that either the receiver can get out of bounds, or if not, make sure that you call a play where everyone can get back to the line of scrimmage in time. A play like this, in the best case scenario, takes 4 seconds. In 11 seconds, just look at where everyone was standing and the fact that Ray McLeod was going deep. There is no way that they would have had enough time to get the ball back to the line, get everyone set, and spike it, and still have enough time to try the game-winning field goal. It would have taken a lot for that to happen. Again, the risk is that the receiver can't get out of bounds and the game ends. I get taking that chance if you're going for a play to get into more makeable field goal range. But for 1 whole yard? Why? It just doesn't add up. And somehow, the play gets even worse. Before talking about the next point as to why this play was awful, for those curious, yes, this was the first read on the play. Rudolph was supposed to throw the ball this way, which is what makes it worse. Perhaps the biggest knock on Rudolph coming out of Oklahoma State was that he rarely looked past the first read. He was a one-read kind of quarterback, and those struggles have continued in the NFL. Just look at the 2019 season when he started 8 games. When looking past the first read, he ranked 31st out of 32 eligible quarterbacks, only ahead of Carolina Panthers quarterback Kyle Allen. Rudolph struggles scanning the field and letting plays develop. And yet the Steelers called a play here that played to his biggest weakness. If Freiermuth was the 3rd or the 4th option and was just a safety valve in case nothing was open down the field, or in case no defenders were in the area, or in case there was pressure and you just needed someone to throw to so that there was an intended receiver in the area, fine. But that was not the case here. As evidenced by how quickly Rudolph got the pass off, and as evidenced by how his head turned and stared down Freiermuth immediately after taking the snap, this was the first read. This was the intent all along. The first read on this play, which involved a quarterback who struggles going past his first read, was to go in the field of play for 1 yard. Absolute genius. Every play that a coach calls over the course of a game should serve a purpose. Whether the purpose is to get your quarterback in a rhythm, or establish the run, or exploit a weakness of the defense, every play should have some meaning. There should have been 2 purposes with this play. The purpose should have been to get Boswell into field goal range and get yards, or to get out of bounds. If you accomplish both of these purposes, great. If you accomplish one of them, that works too. But here, the Steelers called a play where neither of their primary purposes had any chance at getting accomplished. And that's just absolutely baffling on so many levels. This play wasn't going to get him in the field goal range and wasn't going to get him out of bounds. The Steelers had a legitimate chance to get Boswell a makeable field goal and advance the ball down the field. And with this call, inexplicably, they just decided not to do that. Afterwards, a lot of people were piling on Freiermuth for fumbling, especially since this was kind of a historic fumble. Pro Football Reference is a play finder dating all the way back to 1994. And since then, so within the last 30 or so years, This is the first time any player turned the ball over in the final 30 seconds of an overtime period. And quarterback Mason Rudolph came to the defense of his rookie tight end, saying that he felt bad for him, that he's never had a ball security issue, and that this happened to everyone. However, I hope people are willing to forgive Freiermuth for this, because he deserves no blame here whatsoever. Even if he caught the pass and held onto it, the outcome remains exactly the same, because the play call was that bad. The fumble did not change anything. 1 yard was not going to make the difference for a field goal considering Boswell's history, and that's assuming that the Steelers would have even had enough time to get back to the line of scrimmage, which I don't even know if that would have been possible. That's how poorly designed the play truly was. So what do we learn from all this? There are times where 1 yard matters, and there are times where 1 yard is completely meaningless. If 1 yard is going to risk the possibility of the clock running out, it's probably not worth it. If 1 yard is not going to make any difference whatsoever in the probability of your kicker making the field goal, based on his history dating back more than half a decade, based on the weather conditions, and based on the stadium conditions, then it's probably not worth it. If 1 yard is going to risk the possibility of your backup quarterback, who is not good at going past his first read, making a bad decision on his first read, then it's probably not worth it. And if all three of these things are in play, then guess what? It's probably not worth it. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gamer 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.